Welcome to Golden Arrow Sports. With the draft rolling up, I think it's a nice time to talk about a nice story that rarely happens. Be a part of a 3-part feature called The Three Kings, wherein Jimbo Fisher developed 3 quarterbacks all going into the first round for one school consecutively. That's Christian Ponder, E.J. Manuel, and Jameis Winston. A rare feat, especially in today's day and age with so many quarterbacks being hit and miss. The first guy we're going to go over is Christian Ponder. Christian was born February 25th, 1988 in Dallas, Texas. Christian's dad, Dave Ponder, played at Florida State defensive line from 1980 to 1983. Christian played high school football at Colleyville High School. He won a starting job as a junior and passed for 1,500 yards and 7 touchdowns. His senior year, he passed for 1,200 yards and 20 touchdowns, adding 911 yards rushing with 12 touchdowns. With that, he earned a 3-star evaluation from Rivals. He was recruited to Florida State by Kevin Steele. He had other offers from Baylor, Georgia Tech, Iowa State, North Carolina, TCU, but the biggest threat was Arizona, with former Oklahoma quarterback Josh Heupel leading the way. He redshirted his freshman year in 2006. He saw his first game action in 2007 against Virginia Tech once starter Drew Weatherford went down. Going into the 2008 season, there was an open competition between incumbent starter Drew Weatherford, fellow redshirt sophomore Devontae Richardson, and Christian. The final decision boiled down to who head coach Jimbo Fisher felt best fit the offense. He ended up choosing Christian because of his mobility, decision-making, and his accuracy. Crazy thing is, he almost lost a chance to compete due to an injury through his throwing shoulder during camp. Now, injuries we'll see is something that will play a part in his career later on. He ended up starting all 13 games. He threw for 2,006 yards with a 55.7 completion rate with 14 passing touchdowns and 13 interceptions. He added 423 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns, and he led FSU to a 9-4 record. His first time in the Miami rivalry, he did a great job showing off his dual threat capabilities, going 14 for 31, 159 yards passing, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. But he also added 144 rushing yards that really set the tone in the Florida State win 41-39 over the Hurricanes. Next game, he really showed a good job of stepping up and growing his composure was a 26-17 win against Russell Wilson in the Wolfpack at NC State. Now, he really grew that day. 23-35, 254 yards passing, 1 passing touchdown, and 29 yards rushing added. Really did a great job of just counter-striking Russ because, man, Russ was still balling back then, man. Russ always been good, always been cooking. Don't forget that. He led Florida State to the bowl game against Wisconsin, the Champ Sport Bowl in Orlando. Arguably his best overall complete, efficient game, going 18 for 31, 199 yards passing, and 2 touchdowns, leading Florida State to a 9-win season in his rookie year. Not bad. With the season as a starter under his belt and him entrenched as the starter and no shoulder issues going into the summer to deal with, Christian looked forward to having a great sophomore season. He really did well, having 2,717 passing yards, having a completion rate of 68.8, 14 touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions. Added 179 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. In the season opener nail-biter against Miami, he went 24 for 41 and 294 yards with 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, added a rushing touchdown, but ended up falling short to the rival Hurricanes. He went 26 for 40 with 277 yards and 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions, and another shootout against Russell Wilson and the Wolfpack. Florida State won 45-42, even though Russ put up 5 touchdowns passing over 300 yards. Sheesh. His best game came against University of North Carolina, going 33 for 40, 395 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. But unfortunately, his worst game was against Clemson, where he went 21 for 33, 264 yards, 1 touchdown, and threw over half of his total season interceptions at 4 for the game. and it also where he injured himself, broke his collarbone on that fourth interception that limited his season to only 9 games. Word is that his throwing shoulder was separated so badly, his bone was sticking out of the skin. Ugh. E.J. Manuel had to step in and finish all the way down the stretch. He went 3-1 for the rest of the 4 games. Ponder had surgery on November 20th by Dr. James Andrews. Many believed he wouldn't be back in time for Florida State's 2010 spring game. He was able to, but on a limited basis. After a subpar 7-6 record, the legend, Bobby Bowden, had stepped down and retired in order for first-year head coach Jimbo Fisher can take over and stop being the head coach in waiting and just be the head coach. In that year, Christian Ponder won the Jack Tatum Award, which is the nation's top student athlete, and the National Football Foundation for Scholar Athlete Award, as well as the Bobby Bowden Award, crazy enough, for the top FBS athlete among any student. He obtained a finance degree in 2.5 years with a 3.73 GPA, and as well as getting an MBA, a second degree in sports management. He finished the season with 2,044 passing yards, with 20 touchdowns and only 8 interceptions. He also had 180 rushing yards with 4 touchdowns. He started 12 games, but he missed a lot of times due to a swollen bursa sac in his throwing elbow, leading E.J. Manuel having to come in and step in and gain a lot of valuable experience down the road for him. He was dealing with that injury all year, as the elbow had to be drained 3 separate times during the season, as well as the injury flaring up during the bowl game and not allowing him to finish. But with the help of a stingy, greedy defense and optimistic special teams, and E.J. Manuel running the ball efficiently and really sneakily catching the South Carolina off guard, Florida State didn't need Christian to finish the game and win the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Christian finished his college career with 6,872 passing yards, 49 touchdowns, and only 30 interceptions. He also had a 61.8 completion rate to go with. He added 833 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns. Now remember, in college, rushing yards do get taken away with sacks. He did bounce back in time to participate in the Senior Bowl, and he ended up winning game MVP, throwing 2 touchdowns. Going into the 2011 NFL Draft, Ponder was looked at as a second-round pick by most experts, but the Minnesota Vikings shocked everyone, ended up taking Christian Ponder 12th overall, making him the 4th quarterback taken in that first round, behind Cam Newton, Blaine Gabbert, and Jake Locker. Going into the offseason, Christian Ponder was expected to be the starter full-time when the season started, but with the lockout looming, the Vikings decided to bring in Donovan McNabb to be a bridge quarterback. After a 1-5 start under McNabb, Christian Ponder got his first start against the Green Bay Packers. Ponder went as expected during his first start. A lot of ups, a lot of downs, going 13 for 32, 219 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, but also throwing 2 interceptions. He added 31 yards rushing on the ground. But that wasn't enough to beat the legend of pissed off A-Rod and the then 7-0 undefeated Green Bay Packers as the Vikings fell 33-27. His first career win was against future hatmaker Cameron Newton and the Carolina Panthers. Ponder went 18 for 28 with 236 yards and 1 touchdown, leading them on a game-winning 4th quarter drive with some really impressive throws. The biggest problem for Christian was again his health, injuries. He couldn't stay on the field. He missed time in week 14 due to a hip pointer, and then again he missed the game against Washington in week 16 for a concussion. And then he missed the season finale with a hip pointer again. Looking for a bounce back, his second year was his best year. Now, many believe that he was just a guy that turned the ball and handed it off to Adrian Peterson during this wild 2,000-plus rushing yard year and just made sure not to sink the ship and blow up the kitchen. But Christian did a really good job, leading them off to a 5-2 start, including a overtime thrilling win against the Jacksonville Jaguars and good solid wins against the San Francisco 49ers and the Arizona Cardinals. During the middle part of the season, they hit a bad stretch, going 1 for 4, taking their record down to 6-6, putting their playoff hopes in deep jeopardy, especially with Adrian Peterson on a magical run. But during those last 4 games, they won all 4 and Christian played great. During that 4-game stretch, Ponder had a 61% completion rate, threw for 630 yards, had 5 total touchdowns and only 1 turnover. The last game of that stretch was a showdown against the last team to defeat them that year, the Green Bay Packers. Ponder went on to have a great day, going 16 for 30, 234 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and a career-high passer rating of 120.2. Along with Adrian Peterson, who on this day went over the 2,000-yard rushing mark, Christian Ponder helped the Vikings clinch a playoff berth. But unfortunately, that old injury bug turned his ugly head back around and bit him, right in time for the playoffs. A deep tricep bruise held him out of the playoff game against the Packers, in which Joe Webb had to step in and start. The Vikings ended up losing 24-10. Going into his 3rd year, the Vikings made a concerted effort to put help around Christian Ponder. Out were Mike Jenkins and Percy Harvin, who didn't seem to match well with Christian Ponder. In were free agent acquisition, Greg Jennings and Jerome Simpson, along with first-round draft pick Cordero Patterson out of Tennessee. But it just didn't seem to work. Christian Ponder just had troubles and inconsistencies finding an open receiver and getting the ball to the right guy. A 4-turnover day against the Detroit Lions in the season opener, added with missed opportunities and bad throws in Week 2 against the Chicago Bears. Put that together with a Week 3 loss to the Cleveland Browns, in which where he had 2 rushing touchdowns but also had 1 interception. Leave that together in that 3-week span, he had a 49% completion rate, 4 total touchdowns, but also had 7 total turnovers. To make matters worse, in that Week 3 loss against the Browns, he injured his ribs, and that held him out until Week 8. The team sat at 1-6 when he returned, and didn't fare too well once he did start back playing again, only beating the Washington football team. And even in that game, he was unable to finish as he injured his shoulder trying to reach for the touchdown. During Week 13, the injury bug came back and bit him once again. He suffered a concussion against the Chicago Bears. Matt Castle had to come in, save the game, and have the first win in many weeks for the Vikings. With that being said, Christian Ponder was benched for the remainder of the year in favor of Matt Castle. And with that kind of ended his tenure as the franchise quarterback for the Vikings. In that offseason, the Vikings declined Christian Ponder's 5th-year option and instead went ahead and drafted Teddy Bridgewater with the last pick in the 1st round. He started the offseason as a 3rd-string quarterback behind Teddy Bridgewater and Matt Castle. He rose up to the 2nd string. He saw his first game action that year in Week 4 against the Atlanta Falcons when Teddy Bridgewater went down with an ankle injury. His first start that year would end up being his last start of his career. Crazy enough, it was against the first team he ever started against, the Green Bay Packers. Ponder was inefficient that game, going 22 for 44 with 222 yards with 2 interceptions and only adding a rushing touchdown. That wasn't enough in the blowout 42-10 loss. Ponder has not seen the field since. He had short stints with the Raiders, the Broncos, and the Niners, but nothing had come to fruition. Now, as a Florida State fan, I was utterly shocked when Christian Ponder was drafted in the 1st round. Not that I didn't believe in him or didn't think he could play in the NFL. He just wasn't the 1st-round talent. His arm strength was just not there. His mobility was good, but not great. Injury was just horrible. He was always injured. He was just always injured and always hurt. And, kudos to the guy. He played through it. He played tough. He played hard, but he just wasn't 1st-round material to me. And, maybe the West Coast system that the Vikings wanted to employ, maybe it fit from the get-go. It was a good idea on paper, but it just didn't fit truly of what worked best for the team. And unfortunately, he flamed out. And, good guy, smart guy, hell of a player, but he just wasn't good enough for the NFL. And unfortunately, he had a high stigma of being a 1st-round pick. Now, hey, stay tuned. We got more coming up. We got 2 videos coming up with this. That's going to be Jameis Winston and EJ Manuel. Now, if you got a pair, a duo, or any type of school that has a large array or connection with certain type of positions you want me to do a video on, hey man, leave it in the comments. Or you want to tell me how much I suck, that's cool too. Leave it in the comments, bro.